All right, so here are quick step-by-steps. So if you are new to live meeting, there is a voice and video tab on top, and from there you can join the audio. You don't need a phone number to dial in. You can just use the computer headset and log into the live meeting audio and listen to the entire conversation here. You have a speaker icon on top right side of your screen, so you just make sure that it is not on mute, and also make sure that your microphone is on mute. That's just to make sure that people are not disturbed if you have any background noise. And if you have any issues with a live meeting, you can just change your feedback option. You can just change it to red and someone will assist you. And otherwise, you can just keep it to green and the session will continue further. And if you have any questions, there is a question and answer panel. So just use that to ask any questions to the speaker. And just make sure that you are on full screen because Neeraj is going to use screen sharing. So it's better to go for full screen mode so that you don't miss anything. And also that would be helpful if when he does any demos. So that's pretty much for the live meeting. And thank you once again for joining the session. This is the first session for ComCamp Online. And we are going through the entire week-long session, so we have one session each day. And to start with, we have the first session, which is Microsoft Cloud for Businesses. And today's for the session, we have speaker with us. That's MVP on Azure, Neeraj Bhatt, and he's actually in US, so it's a morning time for him. So good morning, Neeraj.
Hey, good morning, Biplab. Good evening, Biplab.
All right, so I'll have you take over the live meeting, and I think you're sharing your screen, so feel free to share your screen and show us what you have for the attendees today.
Sure. Thanks, Biplab, and I appreciate all the attendees, I think, taking time out of their busy schedule. I know Monday is a kind of a worst day not to have to join for a session and to find some free time. But anyways, I'll get started. Just to quickly gauge your expertise around Azure and know where you are currently with respect to Azure. And I'm maybe also looking more of this from a business standpoint. Maybe so of course, like you have been working with Azure, but I would also like to know some about your enterprise, and if you can just sort of mix up that as well. So I assume that when you say expert, I assume that there are some projects which your business is currently pursuing on Azure, and intermediate is kind of like you're still piloting, novice you know how about Azure, you are still thinking about it and don't know anything about it, would still fit into maybe you have not really heard about the platform per se, but it's more of one or two conversations with your friends here and there. Okay. Okay, so this is good. Okay, so I think we have a fairly mixed audience. So let me get started by sharing the presentation. And as you know that for today, this is more of kind of a beginner session, which would help you think about cloud, about Windows Azure, and know the ecosystem there as to how you can apply or how can you leverage the same for your business. To give you an intro, my name is Neeraj. I'm a Microsoft MVP for Windows Azure, I think for last 5 years. This is my Twitter handle and my blog URL. But I work as a kind of a senior cloud practice lead for Cognizant, and I have been interacting with a lot of Fortune 500 customer of ours, presenting to the CIOs, taking the value proposition of cloud, creating that mind share, helping people to kind of create a roadmap around their uh, cloud incubation journey, help them determine where the ROI is, and help them identify the workloads which are more suitable to cloud. So hopefully, I would bring lot more of that perspective coming into this discussion as well. In terms of slides, I've borrowed few of them from the David Chappell's session, which again, he's a great speaker and a great thought leader in cloud space. But I would also bring in a lot of my experience around this. So after having worked on cloud, I think for nearly last 5 years, I think where it stands today, if you look at the Gartner's the hype cycle in terms of the technology, I think cloud is pretty much coming off that hype cycle. I think it's down now to a point where people are seriously considering taking cloud into their enterprise, leveraging business value out of it. So I think there is no longer a question of whether cloud would be applicable to your business or not, right? So today I think undoubtedly across board, talking to various CXOs, CTOs, CIOs, I think they all understand that every business out there can today benefit from cloud, especially from Microsoft Azure. So there is no second thought there. I think the question today is about when and how, right? So it's more of getting your ducks in a row and identifying those right workloads, and maybe some of them I would share as part of this talk today. So there is hardly, I would say a confusion. There is no confusion out there that cloud is of an extreme business value, for all the enterprises out there. And why it is important, right? So I was talking to a vice president, of one of our customers, and we were trying to pitch him cloud, right? And we were talking about all the agility what cloud would bring to him. He had a current SLA with one of his providers. So he had a infrastructure provider, right? And anytime they need a new hardware, the time to procure that hardware into their enterprise was 5 days. And we were talking to him, and we said that that with cloud, you can take that SLA of 5 days and bring it down to 5 minutes. And he was one of those customers who were kind of laid back, right? They are not really proactive. They are more of reactive. So he said that while I understand that people have got 5 days of SLAs, I know that's not great for my business, but you know what? People have found some workarounds to it. People have adjusted their working style, that they would either request for their hardware 5 days in advance to ensure that it sort of arrives in time. Now that sort of approach or attitude, right, I think is not quite healthy for businesses out there. So coming to this great slide, right, from innovation to obligation, I think the people and the enterprises who are going to adopt cloud today are going to lead the innovation pack, right? People who are going to board the cloud journey later are not going to do it because they want to innovate. They have to do it out of obligation, because their competition is on cloud. The newly emerging competition is also onboarding themselves on cloud, and for them, cloud is becoming more of a necessity, to cut down their costs and to bring in the agility and others. So if you are listening into this, and if you are a business owner today, I would strictly encourage you to think differently, not to take a laid back approach. I would encourage you to challenge your status quo, to understand.
You have to call me schedule. I'm here every Monday, okay? Every Monday. Have a good
Yeah,
day.
sorry, I had some disturbance. So what I was trying to say is that I think the need of the hour is to challenge the status quo, is to demand better SLAs, more effective SLAs from your IT providers, right? It's kind of leading the innovation rather than doing adopting a technology out of obligation. So with that competitive advantage, right, you want to ensure that you make the first move. A lot of our customers today, right, they are changing their product lines. No, I think I'll get into it later, but just to give you an example that how the innovation is changing the business. A lot of customers they have these products, right? Maybe they were shipping to you this software which you could take to your data center, install it, and leverage it. But most of these products, the enterprises today are changing them to services, where they not only offer you the software, they offer you the corresponding infrastructure, your scale out needs. They help you to bring down your capex to kind of OPEX model. So they are changing their product lines into services lines, creating more of subscription-based models where you can where you can grow your business more on a need basis, and not having to really manage that IT component within your data center, and you can focus on your core expertise, which is your service offering. So that's where you are seeing that a lot of those SaaS enablement, right, for the products is definitely one of the major changes what we are seeing across board in a lot of vendors. To just shed more light on it, right? So SaaS enablement is definitely a key workload. But if you look at the cloud platforms today, right? Not only you can leverage for something strategic like SaaS enabling your application, creating a multi-tenant architecture, and then you onboard different customers, you create a subscription-based revenue model, you manage the infrastructure, you monitor the infrastructure for them. You really help them to cut down the IT footprint, which is there within their enterprise. But even if you are enterprise today, right, and you have your utility applications, a lot of customers whom I have worked with, they have this batch processes, right? This batch processes, they run typically every weekend, and they need to complete within a given time frame. Again, there, cloud is of great value. They can leverage this low-cost infrastructure. Again, from a reliability standpoint, so disaster recovery is another aspect there, right? With cloud, with you having this data center available across different geographies. So there are various options to cut down your costs. So you don't need that infrastructure, dedicated infrastructure available to you, throughout the week. You just have this batch process, which is computing some data. Again, essential for your business, but you don't want to reserve that fixed capacity infrastructure on-prem. You go to cloud, right, and provision this infrastructure just in time, perform your batch processes, run them, get the results, store the results on-prem, and ramp the infrastructure down. So it is not just for creating like the innovation side of it, which is definitely going to help you create a new market altogether, which was not existing, right? So maybe you might be a thought leader in the SaaS space for your service offering. Maybe you are running a kind of a boutique software shop. Maybe let's say that you have some kind of encryption model. So previously customers were installing those high-end encryption servers onto your on-prem, but now you're availing that as a service. But it could also be the utility applications. So it is both the mix of, I would say, the innovation as well as the utility side of it. And the cloud can help you improvise in both the areas. And we would get into the more specific examples of, like what are the different utility side of it, which are like low-hanging fruits. So utility typically are low-hanging fruits, whereas strategic applications are more of forward-thinking, innovative applications or business transformations, what you would embark on with help of cloud. So let me just take a step back, right, and just quickly introduce Microsoft Azure, right? And when I'm speaking of Azure, I'm speaking about the Microsoft Cloud entirety. I'm also talking about like Office 365 and SharePoint Online and a lot of others. But just to keep it simple, right, and maybe just give a perspective of cloud, I'm going to circle or restrict myself around Windows Azure for today's session. So as you know that Microsoft Azure is this internet accessible cloud platform, right? And I think like when you are choosing a cloud partner today, right, a cloud provider today, one of the things you really want to watch out for is the geographic reach, right? Again, in referring back to the slide here, right, I just mentioned about strategic initiatives, right? Not only applications, application is one part of it, but there could be different strategic initiatives. A lot of enterprises today are looking to grow beyond their local geography markets. Let's say that I'm an enterprise and I'm catering to users in North America, in Europe, but I want to now I want to cater to users in Asia. Now, the one approach what I have is that I go and I set up my own data center in the Asian region. But instead of doing that, what I can do is I can leverage a cloud platform like Windows Azure, right? And I can use that, I can leverage that, to easily spawn up my applications and my services on this data center. So I don't have to go and undergo a 6-month to a year cycle of setting up the data center, identifying my right colo. It's the same processes, the same interfaces, which I've been using for managing my European and my US region workloads on Azure. I get the same kind of accessibility, the same SLAs when I move to Asia. So my ramp up time, right, entering a new geography is a lot less, right? It's my barrier to entry is a lot more appealing to my business. So I think those cycles of months together can be brought down to few days, right? And that's innovation, for a lot of enterprises out there today. It's in a way a game changer. So as I was mentioning that when you are picking up a cloud provider, I think one of the things what you want to do is ensuring that you have the geographic reach, right? You don't want to pick up a cloud provider which has just got a data center, in one corner of the world, and they are calling themselves as the cloud provider, because you would see a lot of players having those specific clouds out there. Second thing, what you might want to look out for is the hybrid approach, right? When I say hybrid approach, is what technology base you have today on-prem. Now where that comes from is that eventually, right, you want to ensure that you manage your public cloud platforms and your private cloud platforms seamlessly. Maybe you preferably a single technology stack cutting across both the platforms would help you. And again, that's where I think Azure really scores, is if you are running any of the Hyper-V workloads on-premise today, then going forward to a public cloud, to Azure platform, is going to be a lot more lucrative. From a business standpoint, from managing the overall cost, the processes, and the competency what you need in moving and migrating these workloads. So I think that looking at your current technology landscape, what you have on-prem, looking at the geographic reach of the cloud provider, and I've seen like most of the enterprises, the kind of presence what Microsoft has being critical for a lot of enterprises out there. Azure kind of becomes a very natural choice for them to take their cloud journey further with Microsoft. Now, as I said earlier, right, that a lot of enterprises today understand that there is no denial that cloud is of great value to them. But what we often see, right, are those challenges, what you would hear your customers citing. And essentially, there are four challenges. I truly agree with David Chappell's viewpoint here. The first challenge you would hear from a lot of folks is around security. And the common question you get asked is that, how secure is the public cloud? Can I really keep my data there? Are my applications safe there? What happens if someone is going to eavesdrop on the data which I'm storing in cloud? Can I do something about it? Right? And there is a good I'd heard this. It's kind of a good humor, around the cloud. There were a few CIOs, playing golf, and there was one CIO, who said that I'm going to onboard cloud. No, I've started this initiative in my enterprise, and I'm going to move few workloads there. And everybody was kind of surprised and skeptical that this guy has lost his mind, right? He doesn't really know the implications of moving to cloud. So I think everybody just cornered him, and they got into a circle and they questioned him that, are you sure that you want to move to cloud? Have you considered the necessary security implications? And I think that CIO gave a wonderful reply that it doesn't matter that if I am secure. It really matters that I stay in business and I'm ahead of my competition. So that's what I think is important, right? While you want to ensure that that things are secure, right? And there are various initiatives, right? There is another structure, kind of a org foundation called as Cloud Security Alliance, CSA, and they have got different cloud security controls. So what I've seen, right, there is a lot of noise what enterprises really create about security, but it's a matter of really wading through the waters, right? It's really sitting down on a table and listing down all the concerns, and then working with your cloud partner, right, with the cloud consulting firm, and walking through that process of what are the workloads you have, and I've seen that, right? Not only we have moved some of the manufacturing industries, but we have also moved the insurance firms to cloud. We have moved healthcare firms to cloud. So invariably you would find workloads, which are kind of low-hanging fruits, which can be moved to cloud easily. And then you have the other workloads, which are going to take a while. But it's a process, which you have to go through, and it's not really that difficult. To overcome some of these barriers, create a aligned process which is more in line with your on-premise security. And in fact, working with customers, we have heard that thinking of cloud has actually helped them think better about what kind of security they have in place on-premise today. And there was very interesting example, a thought what David had shared. He says that while you don't trust Microsoft Cloud, but you trust Microsoft updates, right? Most of the data centers which are running production workloads today, they apply Microsoft updates. Now just think about it, right? If the Microsoft update has got vulnerability into it, right? It can compromise on any data you have on your system, but still you would go ahead and install that upgrade. Now, the reason you do that is because you trust Microsoft. And I think the same thing you need to start building trust is with the public clouds out there, right? It's a matter of really sitting down with your CISO, getting the details out and really understanding the implications. And I think once you start your journey, I think you would be surprised to see that there would be a major section of the workloads within your enterprise which you will be able to migrate to cloud. The second barrier, right, to cloud adoption is compliance. And in fact, there are some stats which I was looking at it a while back. So there were these interviews of the CIOs who were not on cloud, and for them the number one barrier to move to cloud was security. And there was this other set of CIOs who were already on cloud, and for them the number one barrier was compliance. Now, compliance is all the legal implications, right? What you really need to cater to. Now, this are the enforcements imposed on you by governments, by federal agencies, and by standard laws. Now, this is where you would run into HIPAA, PSI, PCI DSS, and a lot of others. Now, again, I was referring to the Cloud Security Alliance, and they have this cloud. They have got this security controls matrix and a lot of other structures which can help you working with, right? So you don't have to really wait for the responses to come from a public cloud provider like Azure. You can just go to the Cloud Security Alliance. It's pretty much an open forum. You can download a lot of artifacts pertaining to your public cloud provider, and you can get started with compliance. But compliance, maybe invariably, I think is going to take you a little longer. And as far as I am concerned, I think this is one of the real barriers to cloud. I was working with a healthcare customer, and they had this HIPAA BAA agreement, right? And they had some specific clause which a lot of public cloud providers weren't willing to sign. So I think security, while it has been really hyped off about, but I think compliance, you still want to be cautious, right, in terms of really understanding the implications and working through the details. So I think in terms of barriers, if you really want to spend your time in terms of cloud migration, compliance is the place which you need to get right. Now again, don't get intimidated by the fact that compliance would become kind of a potential barrier, and don't throw the baby along with the water, because you would still have, I think, not many workloads. I was talking about the same healthcare customer where we couldn't take their HIPAA workloads, but we could take some of their packaged workloads. For instance, we could take their Exchange server and move it to cloud. We could take some of their public-facing applications which were not HIPAA compliant, and we could move that to cloud. So there is a lot more, right? And by the time you would mature in your cloud journey, a lot of these compliances are also being worked upon. I know you would see a lot more support in terms of HIPAA, and I think if you go to Microsoft Trust Center today, you would see, in fact, they support HIPAA, they support FedRAMP, and a lot of other compliances. There is a chartered path which you can align to and start your journey with. The next barrier, again, is the availability, right? I've seen people, enterprises citing reasons that Amazon went down and it impacted Netflix, and right, when people give such examples, I think interestingly, especially the Netflix example, if you look at it, when Amazon went down, right, Netflix in fact outperformed Amazon. So there is a way, right? There is a way to architect your system on cloud when you can better the SLAs, what your cloud provider, what your public cloud provider is offering to you. So for instance, Microsoft Azure might give you a high availability of 99.99%, but if you want a 5 nines high availability, you can still factor that out. You've got services like, you've got Traffic Manager, you've got your availability sets, you have got your geo-replicated storage and whatnot. So it's going to definitely cost you. And again, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You want to create different categories of that what availability, what SLA given application warrants for, and depending upon that, you can come up with a suitable architecture. At times, you can also go for a hybrid architecture, right, where you can fall back on-prem to cloud, cloud to on-prem, and you can bring in more reliability, more resiliency into the system. So availability, I think, while it was a much talked about barrier for cloud, I think in the recent discussions, what I have seen, the availability has kind of taken a backseat. So, but still, I think you would hear a lot about that. How safe it is. Would my application be available all the time? And the answer to that is yes. There are definitely workarounds. There are architectures out there which can cater to these needs. The finally and the most important one is the unspoken worry. Now, invariably, right, when you are talking into an enterprise about cloud adoption, you would have two teams. One is engineering team and one is the IT team. Now, engineering team, would be all gung ho that no, let's move to cloud, let's do this, let's do that. No, let's build dev test on cloud. And because for them, right, it's all about improvising their productivity. And IT teams at times, right, they don't seem to get it right. Right, while they won't tell you at on your face, the businesses are kind of skeptical. They are thinking the IT side of it especially, right? They are thinking that the cloud would take their jobs away. And for me, though, again, this is my perspective, I don't believe that to be true. Now, here is my reason why. Right, so I was talking again to the senior IT director of an organization, and he told me that no, so he was definitely very skeptical about cloud, and in fact he just wanted to get away by moving Exchange. So for him, Exchange on cloud was kind of cloud adoption. And Exchange on cloud, no, while it is good, it's hardly going to bring down your costs, right? There are a lot more potential workloads. What he was ignoring, no, just out of his lack of understanding of cloud, he had some reservations about it. No more that he would have to ramp down his staff, and know he's going to lose a lot of his people, and it's not going to be a good move within his organization, and so on and so forth. But as we started discussing the details, right, he told me that the way his disaster recovery was set up. So let's say that he was running his data center out of region A, right, and due to some reason that region A went down. Then he had a region B, but with the enterprise infrastructure model they had in place, region B was at 50% of region A, right? So in terms of the capacity, so region A was running 100% capacity. It was the primary data center, and then they had region B, which was at 50% of the capacity, because disaster, as they expected, would not happen every day. It's going to happen once in a while. So why to have region B running at 100% capacity? So they had this arrangement with a hardware provider, with the infrastructure provider, and their SLAs was that within 24 hours, right, once a disaster strikes, this infrastructure provider would bring in all the necessary infrastructure, and then they would go and they would bring up the systems and hardening of the OSs and all that. Sorry. So if you look at their RPO here, right, there it was coming that RTO was coming to around 3 to 4 days, because 24 hours was the SLA with the hardware provider, since they would onboard the hardware, and then they would start booting up the systems, ensuring that everything is in place, configuring their switching over from the primary to secondary, and all that, right? So this is what I was trying to explain here, that with cloud, you are not going to lose your job. It is the infrastructure provider with whom you have an SLA of supplying infrastructure to you in 24 hours. He's going to get out of business. So those small time companies, those colos, right, which offered you infrastructure with some very strict SLAs, you have to sign, you have to pay them upfront amounts, you really can't exit without prior notice, right? So those really stringent business models with some of these infrastructure providers, it is those folks who are going to go out of business. It is not necessarily you. Maybe I think you have an opportunity to be a thought leader in your enterprise, and you have to create those lean cycles, right? The lean cycles of development, lean cycle of releases, lean cycles of innovation, and and stand up for something which is new, which is groundbreaking, and take your entire workforce and apply your workforce in those areas, right? Enhance your focus in those areas, and work more on automation, because that's what is going to be norm of the day, whether you are on-prem or on cloud, right? You are expected to drive a lot of automation into your IT. So I think that unspoken worry, I would take it more from that perspective, and not really thinking a lot more than what's necessary there. But I think this is a very important barrier, and it's pretty much there. People might not tell you on your face that no, I'm not adopting cloud because I fear losing my job, but it's pretty much out there. Okay, so I think with those 4 barriers, right, and you have some kind of perspective, at least if you are going to talk to your business, know about cloud, at least you know that what are those 4 areas which you really need to focus on and create a plan around that, right? So moving forward, let me just give you a quick overview of different Azure technologies, and then we can just go into those areas of strategic IT and utility IT, right? And how can it help your business? So as you would know that cloud has got a compute aspect to it, right? And this compute aspect, you have got infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and also software as a service, right? Primarily in terms of infrastructure as a service is you have this infrastructure available to you, and then you have your UI portals, you've got your PowerShells, you can use your System Center Configuration Manager and a lot of those tools to create the infrastructure in cloud. And with platform as a service, right, you don't really have to worry about provisioning the infrastructure and the application and others, right? You just have to take your applications and deploy them onto cloud, right? And your application would kind of auto scale. It would auto scale depending upon the different parameters what you can set, either depending upon the CPU usage, depending upon the users, or depending upon the requests which are queued up, so on and so forth. And especially in the platform as a service space, you have got cloud services, the traditional web role and worker role, and you have also got something simple, right, and new called as websites. Now websites, you can just take your applications. Again, there are different tiers available to you there. You've got a free tier, which is great for running some of the dev test scenarios. Again, like you have got pay-as-you-go model. There are a lot of things. You can run your marketing campaigns here onto the websites, onto the platform as a service, and so on and so forth. So in terms of data management, right? So you have got compute and data, right? Those two are the primary services what cloud has to offer. And then data, there are various storage technologies what Microsoft can offer you. The first of it is the blob storage, right, where you can upload your archives, your backups, your media content, and so on and so forth. You can have your relational storage, like setting up SQL Server farm, a high availability farm, always on farm on Azure. You can do that. Or you can also use the PaaS relational storage, right? The SQL database, again, which is available to you on a pay-as-you-go model in terms of your gigabyte pricing and so on and so forth. And again, there is an ecosystem around it, right? So the data management per se, you would have heard of a hybrid storage appliance called a Store Simple. Now, Store Simple allows you to gradually migrate and move a lot of your on-premise data to cloud much more in a secure way. You've got this secure channel of encryption. The Store Simple itself has got different tiered storage. It has got a hot, warm, and a standby storage, standby more on cloud. So there are different models, right? There are a lot of technologies and the ecosystems available out there for you to ensure that your transition to cloud is a lot more smooth and a lot more simple, right? You don't have to really go about changing a lot of nuts and bolts as to what you are doing on-prem today. And then you have, of course, that hybrid component what we just spoke about. You can have VPNs, spanning seamlessly from your on-prem infrastructure to cloud. So that's where you can do something like a cloud burst, right? Bursting to cloud on demand. So you don't, maybe you want to leverage cloud, right? Only for running your batch processes. And those batch processes servers should be seamlessly accessible from your other applications, right? To get back the results and so on and so forth. So you might want to do a kind of a cloud busting scenario integrated into your on-prem, right? And we have worked with a lot of customers in this space too. Kind of creating a seamless experience, right? And that's what Microsoft Cloud OS is all about. They want to create this uniform experience across on-prem and across cloud, providing the same set of management tools, same set of hypervisor, same set of technology platform, right? Having you a shared competency across both private clouds and public clouds, on-prem and cloud, and so on and so forth. So moving on, right? This is needless to say. I was just recently hearing this talk, and I think there was a mention that Microsoft is setting up $1 billion data center, $1 billion data center, close to near to that range, $1 billion data center in Iowa. And you can just imagine that how many resources are going to run that data center. So the resources to run $1 billion data center are just around 60 members running $1 billion data center. I see a lot more in my enterprise, and we typically don't have the kind of $1 billion data center size what Microsoft has. So what does this mean? This means that Microsoft is going to bring down the infrastructure prices, something to which our enterprises really can't afford or can't match, right? The kind of automation what Microsoft is driving, the kind of simplification what they are driving in their data center, I think it's kind of unreasonable. If I were to say, for our enterprise, to have that sort of dedicated focus just on improvising the costs and managing that sort of scale. And if you would have seen even the price cuts, right? The Azure, I think if you had done a pricing estimation on Azure a year back and what you would have done today, I'm sure you would at least see a variation of around 50%. So that's a 50% price drop, right, across most of their services in last 1 year. So you can just imagine that's what it is going to do as we go further down the road. And it's a cutthroat business, right? Maybe I think Microsoft, the kind of global reach what they have, there are hardly one or two other providers, right? And in that space, and it's getting increasingly competitive. So you can expect I think the economies of scale, I think there is no denial that cloud is going to win all the on-premise models out there. So quickly getting back on the scenarios, right, just to give you some perspective. So now I think you have a fairly good understanding that Windows Azure is great for your enterprise. I think it's no longer a question of why cloud, right? It's a question of when and how. I think we have already passed those days of why. And I also just spoke about that why you need to adopt cloud, right? Why it is important for your business to stay ahead of the competition. You don't want to adopt cloud out of an obligation. You want to leverage cloud more as an innovation, more as an way to transform your existing business, your lines of services, create new market opportunities, and so on and so forth. We also spoke about different barriers. So if you are today kind of a senior management personnel or an architect trying to create a business proposition for cloud, I just mentioned about the areas what you need to worry about, what you need to have a good story around, right? Around the availability, around the security, around the compliance, around that unspoken worry of putting people at ease that they are not going to lose their job because cloud is here. It's more of an opportunity, not a threat. And you also have a good understanding about the data, the compute, and the hybrid model what a cloud platform like Azure can offer you. So let's see now quickly for the next 10-15 minutes, right? I'm just going to give you some thinking tools, right? Maybe what can I do? What are enterprises out there doing with cloud? What are those scenarios? So one of the things, right, what I was mentioning a while back is around storage, right? A lot of our customers, right? You would see them. They have this archival needs. They can't get away with their data. They can't purge the data, so to say, after a given time frame. They need to back up it. They need to archival it. Look at your banking industry, right? A lot of your mutual funds and a lot of those transactions, right? They need to retain the records for 7 years. The same applies with the healthcare industry as well. Now, there, if you look at the IME industry, the information media and entertainment industry, you have a lot of media files there, right, which they need petabytes and zettabytes of storage, right, to keep those large recordings, those high-end video recordings with big, with the HD resolution and so on and so forth. So all of this, right, storage is very important, and enterprises today are looking for cheap alternatives for storage. They have this very time-consuming processes in place in terms of backups, tape drives, and moving those tape backups offsite. So that's where you can propose cloud storage. You can propose a device like Store Simple, and Store Simple is more like a plug-and-play device within your enterprise. You just go and plug your Store Simple into the enterprise and start moving and start throwing data at Store Simple. And Store Simple will automatically figure out, right, with the algorithms, that which are the data pieces which are getting used more frequently, and the pieces which are going to use more, which would be used more frequently, would be kept in the hot and warm tiers, and whatever is not used that frequently, your archives and backups and all that, they would be tiered, or they would be moved on to the cold storage, which is your cloud storage, right? And whatever you move on to cloud is all encrypted, and whatever gets stored on cloud is also encrypted. So whatever you store on cloud, you can encrypt that using security keys, and the security keys would remain on-prem, which is in control, with you, with what Store Simple offers you as a functionality out of box. Another aspect to it is dev test, right? And if you're not doing dev test on cloud, I think with all the MSD and offers, I think you're really missing something. So dev test is an excellent option, I think, for cloud. I know how many of you know or not, but it is not just the server systems, right? So I think a lot of people have this idea that all the server systems are supported on cloud. No, you have got support for Windows Server 2008, you have got 2012, and all of the server operating systems. But it is not just the server operating systems. You have got even your client operating systems available on cloud. So you want to create your Windows 8 VM or the Windows 7 VM, you can leverage your MSD and license, and you can just quickly provision the virtual machines there. So I think running your dev test on cloud, how many times you heard your developers that my machine is running slow, right? Or maybe I'm trying to perform this build, which I do, and I need a better infrastructure, right? Cloud is I think is a no-brainer for such scenarios, right? I think maybe I would say that this is more of strategic side of it, right? A lot of business owners are asking that, why can't I have my features being delivered to me faster? If you look at Microsoft, right, as a company, look at the release cycles, right? They were releasing SQL Server 2005 and then 2008, right? There was a gap of around 3 to 4 years, but now you see them that they're making a release every 6 months, maybe every year, right? And for lesser known platforms, in fact, you would see something popping up on Azure platform every week or two. So business is definitely challenging the IT that why can't you just deliver faster, right? And as always, IT has to respond. So I think that dev test is a great place to ensure that there are no white spaces left out there. We got to eliminate all of them, bring in the automation, and change our release cycles, right? From quarter maybe to monthly, from monthly to bi-weekly, right? From bi-weekly to weekly maybe. And then packaged applications, that's another scenario, right? Maybe your SharePoints of the world, right? Why want to run your SharePoint from on-prem? Maybe even your dev test from on-prem, right? Why not just run it in cloud? If you're migrating from SharePoint 2007 or 2010 to 2013, cloud is an ideal platform to do that, right? You want to move your existing applications to public cloud. I was mentioning about the batch processes, right? Batch process, maybe you have a Windows service which is churning out this data for you. So why not just run it on public cloud? It's anyways not accessed throughout the week. It is just that one weekend right, where you need to execute them. There are lots of examples. I think once you find it out, right, I think you would know them. Know the payroll systems I've seen. Like I was working in an earlier enterprise, where we had this payroll system which used to trigger bi-weekly, to process payrolls. So that those could be moved to cloud. So there are a lot of data center consolidations are there. There is disaster recovery, right? A lot of enterprises today, they have got their data centers scattered throughout the world, and they are trying to consolidate them, right? They don't want to run 7 data centers. Maybe they want to hit in 1 or 2 data centers, and the rest of workloads they would go and sit on cloud, right? They have this mission critical workloads what they want to run on-prem, but 70% of their workloads can still run on public cloud. And that's what the utility IT is all about. It's like saving costs. It's doing what you're doing better today, right? It's how can you run better. So that's what you want to take to your enterprise in terms of utility IT. How can you improvise that? Disaster recovery I mentioned, right? It's very important. Not many enterprises have that sort of a model in place today. I was working with an enterprise, and their disaster recovery model was 2 data centers being located 100 miles apart. So if your disaster recovery model is on 2 data centers which are 100 miles apart, it's not going to really save your day. Maybe you have a cyclone, or you have a kind of an earthquake or anything, right, in that area. It's the 100-mile distance is not going to really help you, right? So you want to run something from coast to coast, maybe from continents to continents, and that's where cloud is going to help you. And this is just an example about the dev test which I just mentioned a while back. And now let's just quickly talk about strategic, right? The strategic initiatives. So I was telling that and strategy is very important, right? So again, like from my experience, right, if you're going and talking to a CIO, just don't talk about utility all the time, right? Utility is great, right? But utility at the end of the day, the value proposition in utility is about saving costs. Maybe you might save now by consolidating your data centers, right? By moving batch processes onto cloud, you're going to save X dollar value. Now that value could be like 250K, it could be 500K, it could be $1 million. But not all the CIOs are looking forward to save costs. For them, $1 million means nothing, right? They have got many important things to do. So saving $1 million is not in their top 3 priorities. Their top 3 priorities could be in this strategic. So ensure that whenever you are positioning, right, whenever you're thinking of your business, that how can you leverage cloud, just don't think of utility aspect of it, because utility aspect is going to make you more agile, but it is not going to make you more efficient. It's not going to bring in transformation, and the transformation would actually come through the strategic IT initiatives, right? Now, what is the strategic IT thing? Strategic IT, as I mentioned, is I would say that for me, it is the faster release cycles. There's no time to feature, right? By the time a feature is conceptualized by business, and by the time the business sees it running live in production, right? How can you do a faster dev test? How can you do parallel dev test, right? A lot of times we do testing in a pipeline mode, right? We have this one infrastructure, we are always bottlenecked by it, and our release cycles are often prolonged due to those bottlenecks. So that's strategic for me. I think if you are going to go and tell your business that guess what, any feature you give me today, right, and if it is on and of course it's as part of our sprint planning, I'm going to release it every 2 weeks, right? And maybe they are going to be happy about it, right? So because something which they don't expect. Right, so that's the norm of the art. Earlier I mentioned about SaaS enablement, right? You have your existing products, you have your existing softwares, but you no longer want to take those as softwares to your end customers. You want to take them as services. So moving from the services, right, moving from the products to services is transformational, right? Maybe entering new geographies, right? Enhancing the collaboration. I've not really spoken about enterprise mobility a lot, but enterprise mobility is another strategic initiative, right? All the Office 365 components, what I was referring to a while back, are all part of strategic IT. How can you make your mobile workforce, right? How can you enhance their mobility? How can you make them more competent? How can you provide them more effective reach so that they can work round the clock wherever they are, right? And they can have a better work-life balance too. So those are maybe some of the strategic initiatives. Now you look at your public sites, right? Customer-facing applications. I'm here in US, for last year and a half now, and I've seen like whenever there are some important events like Black Friday and others, still today, right? Maybe the Thanksgiving Day, the portals are not responsive. Like I still get that front page, which is kind of a placeholder saying that they are experiencing some heavy volume traffic. Still, we have not even overcome those basic scenarios, right? Which are very essential, which are like impacting your business lines. So we need to overcome them. So I think it's the balance of utility and strategic IT, because utility would just it's kind of an enabler, but you won't really get with utility a long way, especially when you're talking to the senior management within your enterprise. So ensure that whenever you are presenting, whenever you're talking to them, you have this right mix of utility and strategic aspects both covered, and you have your value proposition being created around those two areas, and then you go and pitch to them, talk to them. So that's very important as far as I'm concerned. And so maybe I would stop here. Just to conclude, right? Public cloud platforms can definitely bring in both for you. It can lower your costs, maybe more helping you from managing your utility IT, and also enhancing, maybe allowing you to do many more innovations, right? Because when you have this infrastructure with low barrier to entry, you can innovate more. Your line of business can innovate more. So that's important, right? So you need to balance both your utility and your strategic IT. You need to keep in the barriers in mind, because your business is going to invariably run into them, right? And I think, as I just mentioned, I think it's no longer a question of why cloud. It's a question of when and how, right? So with that, I strongly encourage you, to sign up if you're not already done. I know that few of you are getting started with cloud. So I hope that this session, would leave you with a thought that the cloud is very much there, and there is no point in you, waiting to start your own cloud journey, right? So I wish you all the very best with your cloud efforts within your enterprise, and I hope your business is more on that transformational, innovational curve, and not on something which does out of obligation, right? So with that, I hand it over back to Biplab, and maybe if we have a quick poll just to determine the session content.
Thanks, Neeraj. I think there is a question, more of a comment than a question, so I can just read it for you. All right, so the question is, I agree for Microsoft Trust, but still depends upon company policy. If can't share sensitive data like SSN and credit card number, in this case, what you suggest?
So as I mentioned, right, so in those 4 barriers, I agree that maybe compliance barrier is I think one of the most the really applicable barrier to me is compliance, right? Maybe you can the other ones, right? Availability, security, and their unspoken worry, right? They are more of a hype while they are there. But having said that, right, I would encourage you to to find out alternatives, right? Look at different workloads. Look at some low-hanging fruits, right? What have we mentioned around dev test, around disaster recovery? So have that. I would say that go through that incubation journey of cloud. Let your enterprise incubate dev test. Let your enterprise talk about disaster recovery. Talk about moving your non-sensitive applications, move them to cloud, right? And I think as part of it, right, your enterprise is going to learn a lot. So while these concerns are valid, and there's no easy answer to it, if your company policy is that they really can't share a sensitive data, you would have to work through them. Now, I've been working with a customer for last 6 months, to help them figure their security component out, their compliance component out. But I would say that no, there are always alternatives. You don't have to get stuck with one specific workload, and you can look at the alternatives. So I would say for that, right, try to look at alternative workload. Just don't hang up on one specific workload which you are not able to move, right? And just keep those dialogues open. I'm sure that they would move that to maybe in due course of time, if not today, down the lane, 6 months or a year time frame, you would see. And it's more about they would, once their competition would move, the enterprises would follow. But yeah, I would say look for alternatives, and try to work your way around and just see what else you can do within the enterprise, and then come back to this workload.
Cool. Thank you. Well, there are no other questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to post it on Q&A panel. And regarding the feedback, we are following a different strategy this time for feedback. So after this session, you will get an email with the feedback link, and we request you to participate in on the feedback poll and give us feedback. And what we are going to do is those who have attended this session today, that means around 6 or 7 people here, on the live session, they will get an Azure Pass for 30 days, and you can play around with Microsoft Azure. And if you have any issues, any concerns with Azure, you can just test it out there in that environment, and feel more confident with Windows Azure or Microsoft Azure platform. So make sure that you participate in the survey. The survey is on your way, and also by mostly next week, we would be able to send you your Azure passes to play with Azure. So with that, I think today's session is over. So thanks a lot, Neeraj, for the session, for the amazing session. And tomorrow at the same time, around 8 o'clock in India time, you have develop apps and websites in cloud environment. So one of our MVPs also going to speak through the apps and website development on cloud platform. So do make sure to participate in that event as well. And you will have a lot more learning there. So we'll look forward to see you in the session tomorrow. And till then, thanks a lot and have a nice day ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Viplal. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining here.